Welcome back, everyone. This is Dave from Core Productions by co-host Stacie, here to talk about the original Quantum Leap, Season 4, Episode 9, titled A Single Drop of Rain. The episode's description reads as follows. Sam leaps into a rainmaker who returns to his drought-stricken hometown and has to keep his family together. The episode has a story credit for Donald P. Belzerio, that's the series creator, and Richard C. Oakey, with a teleplay credit also by Oakey. And this is his first effort on the series, though he would go on in Season 5 to be promoted to a supervising producer and would write 5 episodes during that season. The episode was directed by Virgil W. Vogel. This is his only work in the series. He has 81 directorial credits, including 5 episodes of Magnum P.I., which was also a Donald P. Belzerio series. And he died on January 1st, 1996 at the age of 76. That's kind of a sucky new year, but yep, the episode takes place on September 7th, 1953, and originally aired on November 20th, 1991. Before going any further, I'll tell you a couple of things. One, this is not a spoiler-free podcast. If you haven't watched the episode, I highly recommend you go and check it out and come back and give us a listen. Secondly, if you're listening on the platforms of this podcast is now available on, please follow. And feel free to check out my YouTube channel, Corn Productions, where additional content can be discoverable, Quantum Leap related and otherwise. If you're already on my YouTube channel, please like, share, and comment, and subscribe to our channel, as well as hitting that bell so you can get notified when new content drops. And good God, I'm glad that's over with.
You're getting quicker and quicker at that spiel.
I want to get it over with as quickly as possible because it's, quite boring. But anyway, so shout-outs this week.
All right.
Mimi. She says that she wished that they could have shown the extra stuff that you were talking about last week. It would have made sense than the ending that we got, which I totally agree with. And after the crazy episodes with Sam as Oswald for 7.5 times that he weeps, he usually has a closer connection to those that he weeps into after that. Yeah, in Season 5, they end up playing with the whole mind-merging idea much, much more than they do in this season. She also mentions that PJ drew a picture of his hands inside a pair of gloves, the purple gloves. All throughout this episode, we see the crazy doctor wearing purple gloves. So does that improve things for you?
Yeah, see, I meant to kind of go back and look at that because I did see that comment, and I don't recall them being purple. I just recall regular black gloves.
I know for a fact they weren't black. Okay. The only time I recall seeing them was outside when Sam originally was talking to Dr. Mason, out of his office when they meet the first time. Well, the second time. It's the first time that Sam's aware of it.
Mm-hmm.
But you definitely see gloves. They are not black. I'm not totally sure the color, though.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure she knows what she's talking about, yes. But it's not something I picked up on, and I was watching to take notes too, so maybe they didn't do a good enough job of
highlighting that.
Right.
All right. So Alpha says Stacie and I came to the same conclusion. Crane convinced Peter that he killed his wife Janice, after Crane killed the wife and removed her heart. I thought it was a good plot twist because Jack Stone would have to explain why there's a dead psychiatrist lying in his feet. I would think he would piece together a story that would exonerate Peter, i.e. that he was under hypnosis when he confessed to the murder. After all, the best way to get out of any homicide is to blame it on the dead guy. All right, I'm not sure if I agree with that totally, but okay. That's an interesting point. The reason that I love this episode so much is that it highlights my theory of Quantum Leap, i.e. that pieces of the host can be left inside and become part of Sam's psyche or memory. Prior examples include Chuck Joey flawlessly playing songs in Piano Man, which, by the way, was not a point that was brought up in the episode, but that was his theory about why that was possible. And Sam being able to channel her wisdom and accent in Dr. Ruth. Sam has a piece of Jack Stone's psyche that he was able to fix, where the original host could not or did not, which becomes a side mission similar to helping the little boy realize he is not so helpless in Permanent Wave. Okay, interesting points. Once again, I agree with Stacie, who, by the way, I'm sorry to say, he did end up spelling your name wrong.
I noticed that. Yeah, I did.
It's Stacie, but, that's the typical reading, the one he actually used. And he says that it's so cool, she read the original script for the episode that you can find in Matt Dale's book, which is available, correct?
It's available for print on demand.
Okay. Matt Dale, unfortunately, is no longer with us, but his book is still out there, so you can still appreciate his work.
Yeah, and I don't know if that script, I didn't check if that script's available, but a lot of the scripts are on Al's Place.
Okay.
So if you guys aren't familiar, head over to quantumleap-alsplace.com, and there's a section for scripts, and it's not every script, but there's a bunch of scripts there where you can read them.
This episode should have ended with Al giving the story resolution. Like I said, completely agree there. Leaping right after an intense action sequence is only cool if all the loose ends are tied up before the leap. Agree. The episode Freedom captured this effect perfectly. Al didn't give a single word to the conclusion. Sam grieving over his dying father. No needs were worded as he wept. And yeah, I agree. It was more effective there because there was nothing to resolve. The story had resolved itself. So we got to the end and Sam wept.
Right.
So yeah. All right. So Stacie, your thoughts on this week's episode?
All right. Single drop of rain. As I said last week, it's just kind of a middle of the road episode for me. It's fine. I don't have any real strong feelings either direction. Watching it this time and taking the notes, I did feel like it was a pretty straightforward episode. I felt like it went pretty smooth and pretty quick, and I was a little surprised that I was like, oh, we're at the end already. Okay, that's an episode.
Yeah, I mean, I have a fondness for this episode. It's not like groundbreaking television or anything like that, but it's still an enjoyable watch. And there's some scenes that I really enjoy in this episode, and the conclusion, how this episode ends, is worth the price of admission in my mind. I
do like the setting.
Yeah.
I like where we're at, small town, 1950s. It's kind of a Mayberry feel. Mm-hmm. Watching and I meant to go back and look at this further, but I had a thought while watching the beginning of this episode. We're first rolling into town. Is this the same set that we used for like the old Western towns in Quantum Leap 2022?
I'm not sure.
I had that thought looking at it, and I meant to look at it closer, and then it totally slipped my mind until just now. But I had the thought, like, I wonder if this is the same, like, the same set, the same lot.
Okay.
Where they filmed Salvation or Bust, and then they used it again for the witch episode.
Ah, yes.
The
forgettable one,
whose
name
goodness.
I can't remember.
A Kind of Magic.
Oh yeah.
So that was definitely, those were definitely the same lot. But I'm wondering if this was filmed there, and I kind of feel like it might have been.
Well, I'm sure that information will be available somewhere, perhaps in AlvisPlace.com.
I meant to dig into that, and I didn't. But
okay. Well, you could certainly do that for next time.
If I remember, I'll go back and look.
Okay. So anything else to say before diving in?
Let's go for it.
All right. Sam leaps in. He's driving a car that seemingly breaks down right as he gets to a gas station. It's smoking. It does not appear to be in good shape.
It looks like it's overheating.
Yes. The attendant greets Sam excitedly, calling him Billy Beaumont. His partner with Sam is played by Carl Anthony Payne II. He's got 89 credits, including The Cosby Show, a regular on Martin, and an appearance on NYPD Blue, and he still seems pretty active in acting.
Yeah, he's currently on a show called Young Dylan, and seems to be a regular on that series. The attendant you mentioned, his name, the character's name is Vernon Kudis, and he's played by Britt Leach. His credits include an episode of Tales from the Crypt, an episode of Fame, and he was in the movie Weird Science.
And this appears to be his second to last role. And his last was actually Father of the Bride with Steve Martin.
Okay.
Who you currently watch on that show that you told me about, No Murders Left in the Building?
Only Murders in the Building.
Only Murders Left in the Building, okay.
Only Murders
in the Building. In the Building, okay. Thanks for setting me straight on that one.
Which is the name of their podcast.
Ah.
That's the whole point of that show, is they're making a podcast.
Okay. And he has in total 78 credits for him. He was also in Baby Boom and Weird Science.
I mentioned that one.
Did you?
I did.
Oh, okay. Byrne says the entire town will be excited to see him. Sam wonders why, and Byrne says to make it rain. Sam looks at the vehicle he's driving and realizing he may have left into a con artist. Oh boy.
Yeah, the truck says Dr. William Beaumont, purveyor of precipitation and maker of rain.
And credits. After the credits, we get a view of the town as we hear Byrne ask how Sam feels being home. Sam replies that it's stranger than he might know. And Byrne announces to Velma that Billy is here. She's played by Leslie Kahn. Only 4 credits for her, including an episode of The Commish, though she does appear as herself in a couple. She appears as herself in a couple of projects.
Okay.
Velma greets him warmly. Clint makes a joke about people seeming to like him around here. Sam isn't as thrilled, and Byrne makes a comment about getting his mom to kiss him first before she has her way with him.
Yeah, she's trying to kiss Sam. She's very happy he's there.
Yep. Byrne takes him into his mom's store, where he meets her, and she's played by Anne Heaney. This is her second appearance on the series. The first was in 9.5 weeks.
8.5 months.
8.5 months. I just totally screwed that up in every possible way.
I'm not sure what 9.5 weeks is, but 8.5 months. She played Cassie Thaler, the adoption agent lady person.
Her last appearance in anything was in Dharma and Greg, and this is her last appearance on the series.
She's in an episode of The Next Generation.
Yes.
She's in an episode of Deep Space Nine.
Yes.
She's also in Mrs. Doubtfire.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
lots of great stuff.
And Liar Liar with Jim Carrey. Yeah. I really liked this actress back in the day. I mean, I still like her, but unfortunately, she is no longer with us. She's happy to see him and gives him a hug. Vern asks if he's if he really overdid it in Oklahoma, I think it was, about causing a flood.
Louisiana is what I have it in my notes. Yeah, so Vern calls Billy an important scientist. Everybody believes he's doing really great work. And Clinton, the apprentice, steps in to say, yep, it's true. You know, Billy went overboard on the silver iodine, caused a big flood.
Right. And his mom ends up asking Clint, well, who is this? And Sam, so basically refers to him as his partner. Sam is referred to as a doctor, which his mom repeats with pride. You know, something I do find interesting about this episode, given that the time period and where we are, is that Clint doesn't get more crap.
Yeah.
Like, the fact that he's black doesn't...
They don't make a big deal out of it, but, I mean, he's not seen as a partner. He's an apprentice. He's a helper. And I did kind of take note that, like, the family eats and has meals, Clint's not asked to join them.
Okay.
We don't know where he's staying. Is he sleeping in the barn?
So this could be more subtle form of racism?
I think it's more subtle. Yeah, I think they didn't want to highlight it, but also they didn't whitewash it and, like, make him invited to the table either,
Gotcha.
You know?
Okay. So his mom closes the story early. Oh, okay. His mom closes the store early and escorts him out where we meet Annie.
Yeah, and a whole crowd has formed now to greet Billy. Velma, she makes another pass at him.
Right. Sam's host brother's wife is who Annie is.
Annie, yep.
Whom Billy also has a history with.
And she goes and she just kisses him. Straight up, big kiss on the lips.
It's kind of crazy. She does that right in front of his mother.
Yeah, this is no big deal to her.
Now, I remember Annie's behavior being much, much worse than it actually was, but this is one of the instances in the episode where it totally kind of was.
Yeah.
As bad as I remember it being. She's played by Phyllis Lyons. She has 35 credits, including 24 Boston Public, House MD.
Who?
Phyllis Lyons.
Oh,
Annie?
There we go. Got it.
Yeah. And she was in a House episode in the 5th season titled Joy to the World. She was a doctor. I don't remember her role in that episode, but I do remember watching that episode.
She was also in The Ring 2.
Oh, yes.
You know, I tend to pick up on the horror movies.
Yes, of course. A wheelchair-bound man named Davison, played by R.G. Armstrong, asks if Sam can make it rain. And Armstrong has 185 credits. He had a pretty impressive resume, including Dick Tracy, 3 episodes of Bonanza. I went far into his Internet Movie Database page to get that. And 3 episodes of The Fugitive, that'd be the original one. He also was in 5 episodes of Millennium.
He was in, I got a lot more credits for him.
Okay.
He's got a big list.
Yeah, he does.
The things I picked up on, he's on 6 episodes of Friday the 13th, the series.
Okay.
Which that was a fun show. Do you remember that one?
Vaguely.
It has nothing to do with, Camp Crystal Lake or Jason Voorhees.
Right.
It's kind of the predecessor to Warehouse 13.
Okay.
It's about trying to track down haunted artifacts. That was a great show. He was in Children of the Corn, like the original movie.
Yep.
And you mentioned Bonanza. He was also in Gunsmoke and tons of westerns, like western movies. He did tons and tons of westerns back in the day. And a very early credit of his is he was actually in an episode of Time Tunnel, which goes back to, like, I don't know what year, like the 50s. It was one of the original, like, time travel TV series.
Oh, okay, that's cool. Yeah, I think I did note that as well. So I forgot to write down when he passed away, but he is unfortunately no longer with us.
I would say for sure.
Yes. So Sam is resistant to saying he can make it rain, even going as far as to say he can't. But Clint steps in to say that he means that he can't make it rain today, and he gets all dramatic and he starts singing and dancing.
But before he did that, we meet Ralph.
Oh, did we?
Yeah, so Ralph comes in and he's like, he answers for Sam and he's like, of course he can't make it rain.
Right. And Ralph is played by Patrick Massett. He's the one who played Duras on Star Trek TNG. These days, he's more of a producer than he is an actor. And let me see.
He also was in another episode of Quantum Leap. He played Rusty
Yes, of course.
The Americanization of Machko.
Yep. He was, he was the bad guy in that episode. And he actually wrote the Matthew McConaughey movie Gold.
Okay.
That came out pretty recently.
Yeah, I noticed he has a lot of writing and producing credits.
Yes, yep. And I actually remember talking to, like, someone vaguely related to him on Reddit at one point. I forgot what we were talking about exactly, but he did talk about his experiences as Duras.
Cool.
But yeah. Al appears 7 minutes and 22 seconds into the seven. Oh, yeah, this is his second appearance in the series, and the last one for him as well. Al appears 7 minutes and 22 seconds in the episode as Clint is in the middle of his act.
Clint's giving this big sales pitch.
He asks Al, what is Clint talking about? And Al tells him that Sam is the scientist, not him. And then Al says it's not going to rain for another 8 months, 4 days, 2 hours, 44 minutes, as everyone claps for Clint. So they may have a problem here. Sam has dinner with the family. Notably, as you mentioned, Clint is not at this table.
Yeah, he was not invited to join them for dinner.
Mm-hmm. And it's soon obvious that Ralph has some hostility towards his brother.
We learned that Billy didn't come home for his dad's funeral 7 years ago. So he's been just gone.
Right.
He abandoned this town. And it's kind of interesting that the town is welcoming with such great arms that he's been gone for so long and paid no interest to them at all.
I think it might be because of his reputation and because of the fact that they're so desperate.
Sure, they need him, but they're acting like he's the best thing ever. You know, this is the best homecoming. The women are falling over him. I don't know. He must have had, everybody loved him apparently before he even left.
Right.
You know, I mean, clearly, you know, they need him now, but nobody seems to have hard feelings except for Ralph.
Right. So Ralph is being hostile. Annie, meanwhile, is very obviously fawning all over Billy and wants to hear stories of his travels. Sam, of course, doesn't have any knowledge of any of that and asks about the clippings he sent, and that's a good guess that he even did that, because Annie says, oh yeah, I saved every single one of them. Ralph nopes out angrily to go check out how broke they are, and his mom brings out the book of clippings. Later, Sam checks out his equipment and declares himself a huckster. Al appears, and Sam says he's leapt into a criminal who the town thinks is some kind of messiah. Al says that Ziggy thinks that he has the right stuff, specifically the silver iodine.
Silver iodide.
Iodide.
An important distinction, which we'll get into more later.
Sam starts to think that they could make it rain after all, and Al says they can change history, but not the weather.
Yeah. It's funny because in this same scene, Al's flip-flopping back and forth. Like, he starts by saying, yeah, you got all the right stuff. Like, that is what you need for weather manipulation. But I don't think you can manipulate the weather.
You know, Al actually flip-flops a lot.
A lot. Yeah.
To the point where it's like almost a character trait that he tends to flip-flop within similar scenes. Sam wants to use knowledge of the future, despite Al's skepticism, suggesting that Ziggy can break into the Department of Defense and get the info that they need. Annie interrupts this conversation. Al ends up disappearing, and Annie ends up asking about equipment, which of course Sam knows nothing about, so he makes some excuse about going outside.
But not before, there's something that looks like you wear it on your head, like some kind of a helmet, and I'm kind of curious how they use that in their show.
Yeah.
But he calls it a microwave oven.
Ah, yes.
She buys it, of course, because why wouldn't she? It's 1953, but it seemed like a really silly explanation to call something you wear on your head a microwave oven.
Yeah. I didn't notice that. I didn't even know what he was talking about. I thought maybe they really had a microwave oven.
No, there definitely were not microwave ovens in 1953.
No. Okay. So Annie reveals her frustration about living in this town and her marriage, and she makes a cicada reference, which made me laugh.
She did, yes. I definitely picked up on that. She said she cannot listen to the cicadas anymore. She wants out of this town.
Well, at least they're not the killer cicadas of Frumville.
She should be lucky she's not in Frumville.
Right. She hints that she wants Sam to take her away from all this. Sam tries to defend Ralph, saying, he's not really a flashy guy, but she's clearly too excited to see Billy and has feelings for him, and says if you can't figure that out...
she specifically says that they spent 2 nights together before Billy left town.
Yeah.
and that she hasn't had that much excitement in her whole 8 years of marriage since.
You know, I can't say I'm really too impressed by Annie's loyalty here. She's so quick to just abandon her husband.
Yeah, well, clearly she was in love with Billy.
And
Billy abandoned her.
So
and she ended up marrying the brother.
Right. So she settled for second place, in other words. And, you know, Ralph feels like, hey, I'm second place. And he's kind of right, unfortunately.
He is kind of right. Yeah.
So we see Davidson, Sam and Ralph at the family store. Ralph lets him take things on credit. He goes to leave, and Sam wonders about a ramp, which was not a thing in the 1950s, because remember, Davidson is in a wheelchair.
He's in a wheelchair, yeah. Yep. So what he did is he bought 11 staples, and Sam tried upselling him to make it an even dozen, but that extra 3 cents was not going to happen for Davidson. He cannot afford 3 cents for a staple he does not need.
He can't afford the other 11 either, but that's kind of besides the point.
Right. So the fact that he bought them on credit, Sam is kind of commending Ralph for helping him and letting him buy on credit, but Ralph says he really didn't have a choice. They all have to look out for each other or they're all going to fail.
Yeah, and Ralph continues to be kind of dickish to Sam here, so you can kind of understand why.
He explains it, though. He doesn't want Sam to give these people false hope because he knows that his brother is a charlatan.
You know, as much as Annie calls him a stick in the mud, he's also kind of right.
Yeah, he's practical. But you know what? She doesn't want practical. She wants an adventure. Mm-hmm. Because, you know, he won't even take her dancing.
Right. Meanwhile, Clint is raising false hopes that Ralph doesn't want his brother to raise outside.
He's on another sales pitch, but this time he's collecting $250 payments to make it rain.
Exactly how much would that be in today's money?
Well, you can buy a lot of those 3-cent staples with that.
Yes, you could.
And they're asking for $250 from every person in this town.
Right.
They make bank.
Yes. So, speaking of which, how would they know if some person didn't end up paying?
Yeah, that's what I was curious. Like, how do you decide when you have enough? Like, they're just taking whatever they can get, right? Because they know they're snake oil salesmen. But
I'm not sure that Clint actually thinks that. I think he thinks that they might.
Actually, it's an interesting discussion to have because they are using the right substances.
Yeah.
They talk about and I think it's right during this scene somewhere. They talk about like this scientist that Billy supposedly worked under. Yeah. And then Al says, yeah, that's a real dude. Like, that's all true. So, I don't know. Maybe they do have high hopes of this working. They just suck at it. You know?
All right, so Sam tries to talk the town out of giving the money, but David says if the town's wrong about Billy, they are finished anyway, and he's going to go down fighting. So Sam turns around his attitude and starts doing a song and dance about how he's going to make it rain, much to Ralph's disgust and Annie's delight. And you see both of their reactions during the scene.
So he having no idea how any of this works.
Right.
Even less so than like the actual, you know, guys that are doing this.
So Sam suggests needing a cannon.
Yeah, he tells that the townsfolk go shoot the cannon night and day until it rains.
And tells his mom to throw a town-wide picnic because it always rains on the on picnics. And you can't, you know, disagree with that logic. Yeah. The town disperses, and Sam wonders, in horror, what did he just do?
Yeah, he expresses some regret to Al for his theatrics here. Ziggy says that in the original history, Billy left, but he took his sister-in-law Annie with him, and there's an 88% chance that Sam is here to keep Annie and Ralph together.
And this is one of two great lines from Al. He's, you know, Sam is begging him for good information, and Al is like, why? Because you decided to become Barnum and Bailey? Okay, so, yeah, he might not even be here to, like, you know, get it to rain in the first place.
Right.
Sam hangs with his mom, who's happy to have him back with his brother, and him under the same roof. His mom says that Ralph is like the country. It'll give you sustenance, but it will make you work for it. Sam wonders if he realizes how rough that is on Annie. His mom says he doubts that he ever even thought of that. She asks him if he's still in love with Annie, and Sam is like, well, he's my brother's wife, and, you know, Aunt Haney, his mother, is no fool, basically saying, well, that doesn't quite answer my question now, does it?
Yeah, but also, I'm going to point out that Billy left.
Yes.
He couldn't have been too much in love with her.
Right.
He left, and he never looked back. And in the original history, he runs off with Annie, but did he really want her?
I don't know.
I mean, I feel like he maybe didn't. And I feel like he was using her, and that whole thing's really sad.
Yeah, it is. And, you know, poor Patrick Massette as Duras. I'm sorry, not Duras in this episode. Sorry. Yeah, he gets left in the ditch. So the town drives in and gets ready for the picnic. A townie offers him chickens instead of the 250 to make it rain.
Yeah, this is the character of Norm. He's played by Hal Landon. And
Hal Landon Jr. specifically.
Okay. He's in an episode of Deep Space Nine. And most recognizable to me, he's in all of the Bill and Ted movies.
Oh, is he now?
He plays Ted's dad.
Oh,
I
okay.
instantly recognized him as that.
Yeah, okay. See, I had a lot of tough time identifying who all these people were.
Yeah, well, you know what I do now is I get all the credits first, so I have all the names, and then as I'm going through the episode, I match them up to people.
Gotcha.
And sometimes it's a matter of elimination who's left, you know?
Right. Do you put it on a wall and write on your walls and stuff like that?
No, it's just a very expansive Word document.
Gotcha.
But yeah, he says he doesn't have $250, but he offers him some chickens. I lost my place in my notes.
So yeah, chickens. The guy with the chickens giving it to him in form of payment.
Okay, so he has gives him 3 chickens, and he says he's going to give him another 2 every month, and a pig in the spring. So basically, he's like, I'm giving you everything I have,
including bacon. Which who doesn't want bacon?
Because everybody's so desperate and they need in on this, and that's what I was confused about. Like, well, what about the people that don't pay? They're still going to get the rain, right? If this works,
right? Yeah. Are you gonna try to collect from them if it works and they didn't pay? Yeah, that's a good question. So Clint and Sam get ready to put the solution together. While Sam calls up to this guy and asks where the heck Al is.
Yeah, he's looking for Al, telling him to get here fast. And somebody, and I didn't figure out which person this somebody is.
They all look way too similar.
I ran out of people, so it had to be somebody we already know, but I didn't catch who.
Yeah, he's like, you need to really work on your prayers.
Yeah.
So I'm glad you still believe in religion, but damn. Anyway.
Yeah, Al isn't who you should be begging for help from.
Right. Sam announces he's going to let Clint prepare the solution.
The cloud seeding solution, because Sam doesn't know how. And Al's not there to help him yet.
Right. And Clint laughs, and they step aside, and Clint says, what are you doing? Are you feeling okay? And Sam says, well, yeah, sure. You've seen me do this 1,000 times, right? And he says, yeah, but you've never done it the same way twice.
Right.
Now, wouldn't that mean that Clint could still perform this?
Exactly. It means just do something.
Right.
But he wasn't feeling it. He wasn't sure. This isn't his part of the show.
Right.
He was basically like, listen, buddy, you need to stick to the script.
Right.
Because I don't know how to ad-lib here. So Sam takes over. And this is a very funny scene.
Mm-hmm.
So he begins by taking silver. He says we're going to start with silver iodine. And because Al told him earlier that's what he means.
Yep.
So he takes iodine and stirs it with a silver fork. And Clint doesn't think this method's very conventional, even though he just said he's never done it twice the same.
Right.
He knows this isn't it.
Well, maybe he realizes that that's the fork he usually uses to eat and is not too thrilled that he's now using it to mix these deadly chemicals.
Yeah. And so then he gives Sam the bottle of silver iodide, which is a very different thing from iodine.
Right.
Now, I did try looking into this. I'm not a science person, and I got a little overwhelmed with the science. There is some relationship between iodine and iodide.
Okay.
I couldn't exactly figure it out. So when you look up silver iodide, everything that comes up is about cloud seeding.
Okay.
So that's 100% true. You use silver iodide to seed clouds.
Mm-hmm.
If you can make silver iodide out of iodine, I'm not sure.
Well, you know who might be able to tell us?
Who?
Alpha, because he's a doctor.
Okay. And it was all there, but it was very scientific, and I was like, I'm reading words, and I got a little overwhelmed. Now, you can either make iodine out of iodide or iodide out of iodine, but I'm not sure which direction it goes.
Okay.
But you definitely don't make it by stirring iodine with a fork. I can tell you that much.
Yes. Well, your scientific mind has at least revealed that you cannot do that. Oh, oops. Okay. So, Al's been doing what Al does, which is hit on someone at MIT.
Yeah, he spent the whole night with his secretary trying to get the recipe for cloud seeding. Because apparently you couldn't just ask Google then the way I did.
Right. Which, I don't know, was Google in the future? Well, this is like, what, 1999 at this point? Does Google exist?
In 99, probably, but not in 91, which is when the episode actually was made.
Yes, but well, so the episode takes place in 1999.
Right.
In the future is 1999, so
Right.
Google would have existed at that point.
Probably.
But in 1991, they would not have realized that would be a thing.
Right.
In fact, I don't even think the internet was a thing back then.
It was
barely.
Thing, but it was not a thing.
Yeah.
It was a thing.
Yeah. It was in its
in development.
Right.
But definitely it appears to me that the idea of weather manipulation was still very new.
Right. In fact, is that even a thing today?
I mean, it is a thing because when I looked up silver iodide, everything was about that. So it's a thing. So it's definitely advanced some since 91.
Okay. Well, that's good to know. So he helps Sam mix the ingredients, hoping it will help it rain.
Now, I feel like Al did a really crappy job. He got this info from a secretary. He got the names of all the ingredients, but he had no idea how much of each to use. At each ingredient, he's like, I don't know, just pour some in.
Right.
So we didn't really get the, what's it called? Like the
proper mix?
The quanities of like this much to that much, you know? Like the.
So, in other words, Al would be a very poor cook.
Yeah. So he mixed the silver iodide, hydrochloric acid, and acetone, and that sounds like a very combustive mixture.
Yes.
This is probably really dangerous.
Yeah.
Don't try this at home, folks.
No, definitely do not do that.
If you are going to try it at home, look up how to actually do it. Don't listen to Al.
Right. No, definitely not. Clint comes back to announce that they are ready for him, and Sam says he will be right there. They put the solution into some kind of canister.
It's a Quaker Oats tub.
Okay.
So they're pouring the liquid in the Quaker Oats tubs, which they have hooked to these like clusters of helium balloons, and the balloons are going to carry the mixture up into the clouds, and then it makes it rain.
And it evaporates into into.
They're trying to grab the. You can tell we're science people, right?
Yes, of course.
Not. It's to grab the water vapor out of the air and draw it into the clouds. So they're like basically using the clouds as a sponge to absorb the water to make it rain.
And meanwhile, they're also being shot by cannons.
Yeah, the cannons going off every few seconds. And the cannons are like hitting the balloons, but I couldn't tell if that was the intended purpose of it.
Right.
Because the cannons were going off before the balloons, and they're going to continue going off after the balloons.
If you miss, you end up hitting the balloon, and it just falls to the ground, and that becomes useless.
Exactly.
Yeah. So a party ensues. The town is having fun.
Yeah, they're having that picnic now. They put that picnic together really fast.
Yes. Ann Haney is a very good, planner. So Sam tries to sell Ralph to Annie using some kind of metaphor about building, how you need a strong foundation. But she basically isn't going for it. She's like, oh, well, then basically it's better left forgotten, and you don't notice it until it's broken, and then
you just get a new one.
Right.
Yeah. So Al thought it was a great metaphor, but Andy was not buying it.
Right.
Al's also very jealous of all his food, which he often is when there's food involved. Apparently, where he comes from, there's a cholesterol control act, which is going to prevent you from eating all of these great foods.
Yes.
I'm glad we don't actually have that.
No, I'm glad not. Al tells him no rain yet, and Sam wonders why they are bothering. And Al points out to him that's what they do. They are professional botherers. And I love that line. It's right up there as one of the top lines of the series for me. We are professional botherers. Al thinks that maybe it'll rain, maybe it won't, but the people will have a nice party, remember. Sam says that isn't good enough. This is all basically built on sand.
Yeah.
Basically, they're providing false hope, and that's all they are doing there.
So Sam and Al keep flipping back and forth about which side they're taking on this whole rain experiment. Ralph overhears Sam talking to himself about Annie running away.
Right. I think maybe he missed that, or maybe he didn't.
No, he did. He specifically said, you're talking about Annie running away, and Sam's like, she didn't run away, she's right there.
Right. And he makes a very public show of expressing his skepticism about the entire thing.
And he pretty much calls Sam crazy and alludes that he needs to be locked up.
But Annie comes to his defense, saying it's called an imagination, which is something that Ralph would know nothing about. Ralph insists that she come home with him, but she says if she does so, it's going to be to pack. Sam says it needs to rain to Al, and Al tells him it's not going to happen. Sam walks with Clint and wonders why he hangs with him. why not find someone worthwhile to be around other than this huckster? And it's really funny the disdain that Sam has for his host in this episode. It's not really all that common that Sam like actively dislikes the person he's left into.
Occasionally.
Yeah.
He specifically says, "I'm a no good snake oil salesman," and we learned Clinton's motivations.
Yeah. He basically Billy found him in Shantytown and taught him how to walk tall, and he thinks Billy is plenty worthwhile. And he says, and he always tells Clint that one day he's gonna make it rain, and he's gonna take root right there on that piece of dirt, and give the whole shooting match over to Clint.
Yeah.
That's an important conversation.
So he's waiting for that day when the business is handed over to him, and he's going to do this all on his own, although he's going to need to learn to mix the mixture himself at that point.
Yes.
Which he didn't want to do today.
And at this point in time, I would almost say that he should stick to the north, because I don't think he'd be very welcomed by himself in the south at this point in time.
Probably not.
Clint leaves, and Sam makes a plea to God to make it rain.
Specifically to GFTW, I'm going to point out.
Okay.
This actually came up just this week in
some
Facebook forums. I'm not going to get into the whole story, but there is somebody who likes to make posts trying to say that like this show is entirely faith-based, and it's obviously not.
Yes.
It's one of the great things about this show is it doesn't take those kind of stands.
It respects religion.
It does.
And
it
doesn't like specifically
Sam
say
often
anything.
References God and thinks it's perhaps God, but we have this whole concept of GFTW.
Right.
God, time, fate, or whatever. The force that is driving him. And he doesn't know who it is. We don't know who it is. It's never been 100% said what is making Sam go.
Right.
So he's pleading to whoever is in charge of the leaps.
Yeah.
Is that God? Maybe.
Yes.
But he's not saying, God, help me. He's saying, you up there, whoever is making me leap.
Yes.
You put me here. I don't know how to fix this. I need your help.
Yeah, absolutely. And yes, I know the individual you were talking about. That person drives me nuts. But anyway. So Annie walks out of the house. She's going to leave. Did I miss something? I think I did. Okay. So nighttime. Al appears. There's no news on the rain. And given Annie's state of mind, there's an 81% chance she's going to hit the road anyway, regardless of whether she leaves with Billy.
With or without Billy,
yeah,
things have come to the point where she's over it. She's going to leave. If Sam's here to keep her here, he's failing.
Yep. She says she's going to leave. She says she wouldn't throw herself at him, but she doesn't know what else to do. And Sam argues that him being back is exciting, but when that's gone, there's nothing left. There's no foundation. He tells her he doesn't love her. They hug, which is when Ralph catches them and says, if you want her, you can have her. And an argument ensues, and I love the tactics that Sam uses here because they're unconventional. Sam does everything to bait him into a fight, including jabbing at his chest. He's insulting him, calling him a burnt-out husk of a man, physically attacking him even, to bait him into a fight. And he's saying that he reeks of hate directed at Sam, while jabbing him in the chest and calling him... Oh, yeah, I already said that. So, a fight ensues. Sam is using this as a tactic to get him to admit his true feelings and to get him to tell his wife that he loves her.
Right.
And, basically they're punching each other, and Sam
Grace has come out at this point. Grace and Annie are watching the fight.
And, Annie's trying to get, their mother to stop the fight, and she's basically like, why? I've been waiting for this for 10 years.
Yeah.
And I love Aunt Haney. I just love her delivery. She was a great actress. So basically they fight. Eventually, Ralph ends up breaking down and saying, he's loved her forever.
Yeah, he's loved her since the 2nd grade, before Billy ever even saw her, but Billy tried stealing her away.
Right.
And like you said earlier, he's always kind of felt second fiddle.
Yeah.
And I think maybe that's part of the reason their marriage is suffering, is because he doesn't think she really loves him.
Right. He thinks that he was a second choice, and he was. So he's not wrong. But
Annie gets what she needed.
Yes.
She gets what she needed from her husband, and that is she heard him express how much she means to him and fight for her.
Right.
Like, she feels like he doesn't care. And now she's realizing, he really does care about me.
Yes. So Sam collapses onto the ground because he's taken a beating throughout all this.
And during this whole scene, we can hear the the cannon going off.
Mm.
But suddenly, the sound of the cannon changes to the sound of thunder.
Yes, and then as Sam lays on the ground, we see single drops of rain. It starts raining. The whole town shows up. Clint is dancing around in the rain.
Al plays Captain Obvious and tells Sam it's raining.
Yes, he does that a lot too. And Sam gives Clint the keys, and then they...
Yeah, he said, someday is here.
Yes. Okay.
But what if the real Billy wasn't ready to quit?
All right, so yeah, that is a problem that I have throughout the series, in that Sam makes decisions for his host. In this case, the groundwork was at least laid for Sam doing
We
this.
know that Billy has said this, but that doesn't mean he means it.
I mean, that's fair. But yeah, so he ends up embracing his brother and his wife and announces he's staying. And Sam ends up leaving.
Sam and Ralph shake hands, and Ralph asks him to stay, and he says, "Yeah, I'll stay."
Again, this is making decisions for the host. That I think the new series mostly avoided doing that. Like, I'm specifically speaking of A Decent Proposal, in which he never makes the decision whether...
Yeah, he specifically avoids making decisions for people.
Yeah. But yeah, that's something that bothered me. In this instance, it's a little better than most cases. Because
it's a little better, but when you look at it, it's like, well, I mean, is Billy a great guy? Maybe not. What do we know about Billy? We know he takes money from people. We know he abandoned his family. Is he ready to redeem himself? Maybe.
The only saving grace is his relationship to Clint. That is the only thing that makes him seem like maybe an okay guy.
Sure.
Everything else paints a different picture.
Also, like, does he treat Clinton well? Or did he just need help? Is he literally just using him? Does Clinton share in all this money that you're collecting?
Yeah, I'm not really sure. Like, also, all signs point to this not being the world's greatest guy.
And if you're making that much money everywhere you go, like, what are you doing with it?
Right. Yeah.
Like, that's a lot of money if you're taking $250 from each person in town in 1953.
In fact, where are you putting it?
Right, exactly.
Are you putting it in the bank somewhere? Like, how did the banking system work in the 1950s? Is it similar to what it is today?
I think it'd be a lot more regional and harder to move around.
Right, exactly. If you put it like money in a bank here, then how do you get access to it? Because I don't think the same system.
Right. I think there were some.
Yeah.
Like chain banks, but they were probably more far and few between.
Right.
Definitely not like today, where
maybe he just has it in his car somewhere, like a trunk full of money or something like that.
Oh my goodness! So Sam leaps into Unchained.
Yes, which is an episode I have zero memories of, and I'm not exaggerating here. I do not remember this episode at all.
I mean, I rewatched it recently, maybe 2 years ago, when Adam and I did our rewatch of the series. Mm-hmm. And yeah, I still don't know much, even though I saw it that recently.
We struggled. When we were doing the trivia, we tried to get a question for every single episode.
Right.
And we struggled to come up with one for that episode.
If I recall, there was a fact of trivia that you said is wrong.
Yes.
And that being that this was listed somewhere on a trivia site that there's no females in that episode. And you objected to that, saying there are females credited.
Yes.
So.
But then again, that could have been like the next episode after.
Yeah. That's something to look for when we watch it, is are there females in this episode? Because that did come up during our trivia.
Yeah.
I have no idea. The basic idea is Sam is handcuffed to somebody and they're on the run.
Yeah. And I think I just skipped that one, like on rewatches, but we will cover it this time.
I do have one interesting thing to note.
Okay.
Is during this leap out, one of the people we see, it's the fellow that tells Sam and his chain buddy it's okay to jump off the truck. That's the actor, and I didn't write his name down, but that's the actor who played Abraham Lincoln in Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventures.
Really?
Alongside Hal Landon, who was in this episode. And I only know that because he did get a credit in this episode since he speaks during the leap out. So his name's listed on IMDb. And that actor's, and again, I'm sorry I didn't write his name down. There will be more on him next time. We'll talk about this, because we do go over all the cast. But his IMDb picture is of him dressed as Abraham Lincoln. So I noticed that. And I was like, oh, is that Bill and Ted? And it was. So I was like, that's an interesting connection that they both sort of appeared in this episode, even though, it was on the leap out.
Well, it'll certainly be interesting because I can't tell you whether it improves on upon rewatch for me because I have no recollection of how I ever felt about it.
Yeah,
And that in itself is an indictment.
So when we were talking, and I'm going to go back to our discussion during the 35th anniversary discussion that we had, and I was talking about what episodes are worst for me, and I stated Dreams, which we covered last week, is one that's pretty low on my list. And I said that the episodes that are worst for me are probably the ones that I don't remember, right?
Yeah.
And I think that Unchained falls into the line of I didn't remember it so much that I didn't remember to say that maybe it's not a good episode.
Right.
I think it's just probably the most forgettable episode. To both of us, it sounds like.
Yeah, I don't think it was particularly bad.
It might be that it's one that didn't air a lot, you know.
Yeah, probably.
Like, when we, as a kid, I watched the show mostly when it was airing on USA. They'd have marathons of it. They'd play it every day after school. I'd watch it during the summer. And I feel like certain episodes they favored, certain seasons they favored. I feel like season 4 in general, I saw less than all the other seasons for some reason. And maybe that episode was skipped.
Right.
Maybe it's something that in syndication the networks weren't picking. I don't know. Maybe I just didn't see it as often in my life, and that's the reason it's forgettable to me.
Maybe. Well, we'll certainly see when we talk about it next week. And, if you want to provide early thoughts, about what you think of the episode, feel free to drop your comments per usual. Do we have anything else to say about this episode?
I don't. It was a fair episode.
Yeah. Well, I like it. I have a soft spot for it, mainly because of the cast. Like, I do really like Anne Haney.
Yeah, she's pretty good.
And, Patrick Massett it's fun to watch in this episode as kind of the butthole brother, mainly because I know him from, like, Star Trek The Next Generation as a villain, who doesn't actually appear all that much. But I didn't make any, Klingon jokes in this podcast like I did when I did the Americanization of Machko. Like, I kept saying stuff like, it's a good day to die, and stuff, such and such. But I guess I did now. But, all right.
One thing was, just wanted to bring up the fact that there were hints of this episode, and I mentioned the episode earlier, A Kind of Magic.
Okay.
So that was the 2022 season 2 episode.
It was
8,
late. It was
7?
late in the first half of the season, I would say.
I want to say 7. Whatever episode it was like near the middle of the season. And it was the witch episode, and it was not very high regarded as far as episode rankings go.
I think it was ranked at the bottom of my list.
During our discussion of that episode, we talked about A Single Drop of Rain because they similarly used it raining at the end to kind of resolve the episode.
Right.
And they're definitely
to a less convincing degree.
Right. The episode wasn't about making it rain, but the rain resolved like what was happening. Now they didn't see the clouds. It rained naturally in that episode. Right. But it definitely drew feelings towards Single Drop of Rain. And I do find that interesting because again, I was questioning, is this the same set? Is this the same studio lot?
Well, you'll definitely have to look into that and let me know.
I don't know if that information's out there, but I will
check.
I will try.
Matt Dale's book.
I will try.
AlicePlace.com.
I don't have.
Maybe just directly.
I mean, we don't have any information from Matt Dale about season 2.
Really? Season 2? Oh, right.
Because it.
Yeah. I got you. Yeah.
It wasn't released yet.
Unfortunately, and it's never going to be, sadly.
But it was before the mid-season finale, right? It was during the first half of the season.
Yes.
So he did watch that episode.
He did.
We just don't have notes on it.
Right.
But I will see who I can find. Maybe I got to reach out to Deborah for that one.
Maybe. You could. Yeah.
Whew, all right. Yeah.
Maybe we can get around to talk about it.
That seems a little extreme. But
well, we could just get around for the heck of it. We miss her.
Yeah. How you doing, Deborah?
Yeah. We're just catching up. How's the kids?
Grandkids.
Yeah. All right. So we would like to hear from you. What'd you think of this podcast? What'd you think of this episode? Stacie, can you reach that?
I can reach on Twitter, X, Instagram, and Threads at TVN Coupon Talk.
If you like this video and want to support the channel, there are a number of ways to do so. You can follow me on Twitter at Core Productions. You can join one of my Core Productions Facebook pages. You can buy something from the Core Productions store on Zazzle. You can buy me a coffee. You can join the Core Productions membership for 99 cents a month. And, of course, you can like, share, and comment on this video, as well as subscribing to the channel, and hitting the bell so you get notified when new content drops. This is Dave and Stacie from Core Productions, signing off.